Well, this was earlier on Good Morning Ghana. Joining us via phone is anti-graft campaigner Edem Sananu for more on this. Edem, thank you for your time. You're welcome to Newsbeat. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So maybe we'll say it's a good thing that SSNIT has given an earlier response. But will you say that because it's the case has been taken to Shraj, they probably could have waited?
Oh, no. I think it's their right to put information out in the public domain. And it gives us all a little more clarity on the process they followed, which, yes, on the surface of it looks quite comprehensive, except that there are still major gaps. I am curious as to how can we have all these 6 hotels being sold off? What really has happened? Because hotels like Labadi Beach Hotel are doing well. So why would we want to sell it off? So there are questions. First of all, what triggered this intention to sell off? Because one doesn't invest in a sector just as an end in itself. It's a means to an end. Obviously, an analysis showing that this is a profitable sector will make money that will plow back to be able to pay off our clients in terms of the pensioners, etc. So what has changed? Is it mismanagement? Can we say all these 6 hotels really ought to be sold off at this point? Is there any data, any report showing that it is more strategic to jettison the shares at this time? That has not been answered. And then the processes also, there's no clarity. The shortlisting processes, I'm interested. How exactly was the panel for shortlisting the transaction advisor done? And then how was the panel for the shortlisting? What criteria were used for the shortlisting of the strategic investor? It appears that the transactional advisor may have failed in his or her responsibility by not doing proper due diligence. Otherwise, how Rock City got in, especially where the owner had not fulfilled the constitutional requirements for you to be, also then becomes issues.
It is actually what underlined my first question, because if you deem it a right to respond, maybe for the sake of transparency, then you may want to respond to the pertinent issues that have been raised concerning constitutionality, the operations of Rock City from the year it started compared to the year that the SSNIT started making the announcement for the investment or the sale of these hotels.
Excellent point. Right. Excellent points you raised there. Excellent points you raised. And that really is the gap.
Right.
I mean, on the surface of it, the process followed the normal international processes. But when you put the microscope to it and get to the nitty-gritty, when you drill down, there are major gaps.
Right.
And then I will be asking, so who is this transaction advisor? Shouldn't we be firing the person and collecting money back for poor job on due diligence? Because then your shortlist should not have included a Rock City if they have failed to meet the constitutional and legal requirements in the environment. So who was this person who did not know they should have checked this? And then how do we end up having a process where one person is supposed to be strategic enough to take 4 hotels? What is that person doing? I'm really curious as to the criteria that was even used on that. And then the entity itself and when it was established as compared to the process. So yes, their response in the media is not comprehensive enough. It gives a certain sense of the process, but it raises more questions than answers at this point.
So if you look at the release, point 8 says a total of 9 companies responded to the advertisement by submitting proposals on 23rd of March 2022. 6 out of the 9 were shortlisted and issued with a request for proposal documents. And then point 9 says the qualifying firms were invited for the opening of their financial proposals based on the technical and financial evaluation. Rock City emerged the best.
Well, you see, that's where the articles that Honorable Blackwarry refers to become important. Because you see, when you have a Minister of State, someone who has handled a portfolio such as the Ministry of Interior, so that's security.
Right.
You are privy to a lot of information. That's where conflict of interest comes in, because you potentially could have gotten information as to what is going on in the space and influence and your debate.
As a matter of fact, Ablakwa makes that point clearly, that he had been in Parliament when these issues were being discussed, so he's privy to the information. Yes.
So there's a substantive conflict of interest.
Right.
You know, when we talk about conflict of interest, there can be potential conflict of interest, and then we say there's actual or substantive.
Right.
So this one, there's a substantive conflict of interest, and so it means there's been legal provisions that have been breached. And so such a candidate cannot be endorsed as the final whatever of the process.
Okay.
And so these are very legitimate issues being raised.
Now, before I let you go, the articles that Ablakwa also raised in his points, Article 78 Clause 3 and Article 98 Clause 2. 98 Clause 2 says a member of Parliament shall not hold any office of profit or emolument, whether private or public, and either directly or indirectly, unless permitted to do so by the Speaker, acting on the recommendations of the Committee of Parliament on the grounds of that A, holding that office will not prejudice the work of a member of Parliament, and B, no conflict of interest arises or would arise as a result of the member holding that office. 78 Clause 2 says, it's 78 Clause 3. A Minister of State shall not hold any office of profit or emolument, whether private or public, and whether directly or indirectly, unless otherwise permitted by the Speaker, acting on the recommendations of the Committee of Parliament on the grounds of A, that holding that office will not prejudice the work of the Minister, and B, that no conflict of interest arises and will not arise. So these two, that's 98 Clause 2. Clause 2 says a member of Parliament shall not hold any office of profit or emoluments, whether private or public, and either directly or indirectly, unless permitted to do so by the Speaker. So the 98 and 78 Clause 3 clearly states what the Constitution requires a member of Parliament or a minister to do.
Yes, and so clearly Mr. Brian Achampong has flouted these constitutional provisions, and it cannot be said that he was not aware. I mean, it's not the only case where we can find that we have ministers claiming to have other sources of income which were not declared. So I'm sure if the media were supposed to investigate this, you're going to find many more people who are breaching blatantly the constitutional provisions. So it cannot be the case that then his company, of which he's the sole director and beneficial owner, would then win a process where there's clear conflict of interest situations, where there have been breaches of the constitutional order. So it's a very legitimate issue. If SSNIT wants to come clean, they need to provide all the details on who the transactional advisor who made these blatant mistakes is. They need also to explain what criteria were used in selecting and how come somebody who has this background was found fit for winning the bid. All of that are issues that obviously will not go away now. We will look forward to hearing what Shrat says at the end of the day.
Adam Sanan, we're grateful for speaking to us here on Newsbeat, and he is an anti-graft campaigner.